Good afternoon. I am energized. After, I think, quite a lot of gap, I've gone back to an institute like this. And the energy that I'm getting from this room, from all your hopes, ambitions, is just amazing. So I will say, fellow students, to all of us, because I share these thoughts with my panel members that I think we are all here to learn. So thank you for the invite. Over the last 20 years, I have had the good fortune of having lived in 6 different countries and having had roles that have been global in scope, where inevitably change became a critical part of what I had to deliver. So I'd like to take you on a journey, if I could, in terms of sharing some of my experiences with you, and then I'd like to bring it back to all of you to see what does this mean for you as you step out of these hallowed grounds into what awaits you outside. In the last 15 or 20 years, globalization has basically meant two things. On the plus side, growth has either come through mergers and acquisitions or technological breakthroughs, which have meant that companies have had to rapidly change their workforce capabilities. On the flip side, a lack of a boundaryless world has essentially meant that economic disasters have hit us left, right, and center. In either case, if we don't navigate, if we don't take our responsibility, and by we here I mean the HR professionals, to be absolutely on top of how well can these decisions be stewarded through a global organization, we can foul up things really, really poorly. It's 2002, we had an example of a need where we needed to cross-skill all of us because the company that I was working was shifting from agrochemicals into biotechnology. And all across Asia Pacific, things were flowing very, very well. In China, we hit a wall. One of the peripheral resources at that point of time that we had chosen was this book called Who Moved My Cheese? The story of a mouse and how his cheese disappears one day and how he then has to learn to go find the cheese. It worked brilliantly across 17 different countries but not in China. Till we realized that in China at that point of time, giving that book to someone meant that they were going to lose their job. So, the interpretation of an action can be so different across different countries. I'll give you another example. In India, when we scold a child, we expect her to look down as a sign of respect to the parent and the fact that she is listening to what the parent is saying. In Denmark, where I lived last, the exact opposite is true. If the child doesn't look the parent in the eye, it is considered a sign of disrespect. Now you take the same technology that you want to implement in these two different markets and tell me how you want to find one common way of doing it. Resistance is normal. I found myself on my first day of college walking into the classroom, picking a seat at what I thought was random and never moving out of that chair for the 2 years. If a guest lecturer came along and said, "Why don't you change your seats?" none of us would really move. So such a simple thing is inertia or resistance if it is not managed well. Another example I'd like to share was how SAP got implemented across the Asia Pacific. In Australia, the ownership from the business managers came in a pub on a Friday afternoon over a few beers. In India, it took 1 year to make sure that the entire management was on board. And that's when the technical scripting started. Go live was a non-issue across the whole region. And then another example I can share with you is that it was almost a guarantee that every successive implementation was going to be a failure. More spectacular than the previous one, till the CEO actually had to go to the media and apologize for not being able to make payments for a few months. So if we don't manage change, and the human factor in that, that's at what is at risk. The HR role also shifts in not just what happens inside the organization. It changes to who works with you. Do you choose a vendor based on cost? And I refer to what somebody said earlier. Or do you take a look at the context and say, who can help me reduce my risk or get the benefits of this change faster? So as an HR person, one has to be able to sit along with the IT CIOs or the CFOs to make sure that the cultural navigation of a new technology becomes seamless and smooth. A poor decision, like in one of the companies I worked, led to a financial impact of about $150 million. But more importantly, it allowed competition to go ahead